Okay, so it's day 34 for the daily dollar cost average Bitcoin accumulation strategy. And so I'll get right into it. Do the conversion from the stablecoin DAI, $333, over to Bitcoin. Press convert. Convert now. Okay, so again, they do this every now and then. There's a little bit of a delay. So we'll just go right over to YouTube to see what's being said. I was just looking at these before I started, and this is the one I want to look at. There's a Bitcoin. Bitcoin could be worth millions of dollars each, says Norwegian oil billionaire. 200 million BTC fund. Okay, so we'll just watch this one, but there's obviously there's other ones here. This guy here, this crypto news alerts, he seems to be very reasonable. Again, he wants to build his channel, so on and so forth. So he's going to have an element of sensationalism to a certain degree, but he's probably, a little more stable than most of them. Then there's all these other ones. Bitcoin, yeah. So this person's saying this crypto Casey, she's saying that Bitcoin to 100K in April. So there's always kind of this sense of urgency of, oh, if you don't get it now, you'll never get it, sort of thing. A lot of people are doing that. Yeah, so this Raul Paul or whatever. Apparently, I heard him speak a few times. Apparently, he even knows Soros and stuff. So I don't know for sure, but I remember him kind of alluding to that. He's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, and Soros said this and Soros said that, and he made one point. This Raul Paul, he said George Soros has always said, if you try to kill something and it doesn't die, take note, because it's serious. You know what I mean? And Bitcoin fits that bill. He said, I think that's what he was talking about. He was saying like way long ago when Bitcoin first came out, nobody took it serious, and they were like, it'll be dead after a couple of tests. A couple of things will happen, it'll be done. And he said it kept coming back like a cockroach or a rat or something. Like you try to kill it and it doesn't seem to die. But anyways, that's just one little thing. So okay, we'll listen to this guy here, just hear what he has to say, and I'll just give my opinion as it's going.
In today's show, Bitcoin firm NYDIG gets $200 million injection from Morgan Stanley, as well as Soros. That's right. Earlier today, NYDIG, a leading provider of investment and financial solutions for Bitcoin, announced they were receiving $200 million in growth capital funding led by strategic partners Morgan Stanley, Soros Fund Management, FS Investments, Stone Ridge Holdings, Mass Mutual, and New York Life. And the CEO, Robert Gutman, says they're more than just investors. They're strategic partners, and they plan to deliver an explosion of innovation to Bitcoin products and services. I'll be breaking all this down for you in today's show. Checking out the latest from Max Kaiser. He tweeted, inflation/hyperinflation is here now. Bitcoin tops 1 trillion and is headed to a 4 trillion plus market cap in 2021, which implies $220,000 per Bitcoin as flight capital jumps the fiat ship and finds safe haven in Bitcoin. He also tweeted 77,000 short-term in play and 220,000 in 2021 in play. We'll be discussing this here in today's show. Also in today's episode, solution to scale Ethereum 100x is imminent and will get us through until Ethereum 2.0, says Vitalik Buterin in a new interview on the Tim Ferriss podcast. He shares the following: the thing to remember is that if you have rollups but you don't have sharding, you still have 100x factor scaling. right? You still have the ability for the blockchain to go up to somewhere between 1,000 and 4,000 transactions a second, depending on how complex these transactions are. I'll be breaking down all the highlights from this interview for you right here in today's show. Also in today's episode, Norwegian oil billionaire says Bitcoin could be worth millions of dollars each and puts liquid company assets into Bitcoin. That's right. If you missed the memo, billionaire Kjell Ing Rock's company Acker has established a new business dedicated to Bitcoin. Rock believes that Bitcoin could become the core of a new monetary architecture and that each Bitcoin could be worth millions of dollars. His new company will keep all its liquid investable assets in Bitcoin, and he's quoted sharing right here, "We will use Bitcoin as our treasury asset and join the community. In Bitcoin speak, we will be hodler." That's right. I'll be breaking all this down for you in today's show. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. You can see Bitcoin hovering above 55,000 as Ethereum and all the major altcoins are pumping and in the green. But where's the Bitcoin price likely to go next? Find out all this, plus so much more in today's show.
Okay, so there's a lot there was a lot being said there. And like I was saying before, he was saying that Soros is involved, and Soros was notorious for saying it was junk. Excuse me, that it was, like I'm talking a few years ago, that it was a joke and it was, wasn't real and yada yada yada. Now there's two schools of thought. There's the school of thought that says that, no, he never liked it. He thought it was stupid, and he's eventually come around. But then there's the school of thought that says he was buying it the whole time, knew it was amazing, and was doing it behind the scenes, and was, hodling it when it was next to nothing. There's that, and I believe that to be true about Kevin O'Leary. But Soros, I don't know. I don't know the man, never met him, probably never will. So I can't, from my vantage point, I cannot say one way or the other. It'd be purely speculation and conjecture. Anything I have to say about somebody like that, because I have no idea. But, there's that type of school of thought. Now, the other thing that's, I find very important here, obviously, is like this oil person is saying he's going to use it as, their main form of like treasury in the oil industry, like for his company at least. And if that's true, if this is true, that these types of people are buying it, you would think that it is, again, this isn't financial advice. I'm just trying to, put the jigsaw puzzle together like everybody else. It would seem that, like, this is going way faster than I would have anticipated. I would have thought we would have had a couple more years of just like, amateur investors playing around with it and so on and so forth. And eventually the odd, corporation or something would get into it, Wall Street type get into it. But it's like, this thing is going full on Wall Street really fast. Cause you didn't hear this during the last bull market. Like when it peaked at 20 G's, you never heard this. Well, if it did go on, I never heard anybody talk about it, but I'm talking, this is like mainstream media that is talking about this. Like they're saying that, oil companies are buying it. George Soros is buying it. Morgan Stanley's buying it. JP Morgan's buying it. This one, you never heard that like in 2018. I didn't hear it. You might have heard, like I remember people saying, a certain athlete wanted a certain degree, like a certain percentage of his pay paid out in Bitcoin. Like there's some famous people, and everybody just wrote that person off as an oddball, whatever. But I never heard any of this before. So again, I'm not telling you to buy it. It's not financial advice, but I'm saying if it hit 20 G's last time when just ham and eggers were buying it, like $50,000-$60,000, to me, just in my book, sounds like a bit of a deal, because it's only gone up 2 times or maybe 3 times. If it, I think it was 22, or I can't remember what it peaked out at. But it was basically like, like a backroom deal sort of a thing. Like it was not mainstream whatsoever. So it would appear to me, at least to me, like just according to my logic, if it is getting this mainstream, again, Wall Street's going into it. Oil companies are going into it. Major hedge fund managers are going into it. so on and so forth. And they're announcing this in mainstream media. If all these people that are like the heavyweights are, some of them sound like they're pretty fanatical. Like it's not even like, oh yeah, we're going to casually buy it. Like, yeah, this is the future. If people are saying that, like $50,000-$60,000 really isn't that much. I don't think that's just my personal opinion, but we never know what could happen. And again, it's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to run out and buy any, but I'm just saying that it would appear that this is serious. Like this isn't no longer like Bush League sort of investment, a Bush League investment anymore. This is mainstream, highly sought after. So anyways, I'll run the clip again and just see what he has to say.
Here at Crypto News Alerts, I drop a brand new episode every single day, so be sure to smash that subscribe button, that's right, and turn on all notifications to receive daily premium Crypto News Alerts every single day, just like this. And before I kick off today's show, today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, BlockFi, the leading provider of financial products and services for crypto investors. Here's where you can put your crypto to work. They paid out over $35 million in interest in the month of February, including 450 Bitcoin, 5,000 Ethereum, and 6 million in stable coins. You can earn a 6% annual percentage yield on Bitcoin, 5.25% on Ethereum, and 9.3% on USDT. And they have a special promo running right now where you can get up to a $250 crypto bonus with a deposit of $25 or more. All you got to do is click that link right down below. It'll take you here, then click this yellow button that says sign up, and let's start stacking those sats. Shall we? All right, welcome back to another episode of Crypto News Alerts. Bitcoin is above $55,000, so it's a beautiful day. I have a lot to discuss. My name is JV, by the way. Let's dive right in, shall we? Earlier today, NYDIG, a leading provider of investment and financial solutions for Bitcoin, announced they were receiving $200 million in growth capital funding led by strategic partners Morgan Stanley, Soros Fund Management, FS Investments, Stone Ridge Holdings, Mass Mutual, as well as New York Life. Also, FinTech Collective and Bessemer Venture Partners, who previously funded NYDIG, also took part. Robert Gutman, a co-founder and CEO of NYDIG, said that the participating firms were more than just investors. They are partners, each well known to us. For years, NYDIG will be working with these firms on Bitcoin-related strategic initiatives spanning investment management, insurance, banking, clean energy, as well as philanthropy. He also promised that through the $200 million investment from their strategic partners, NYDIG would deliver an explosion of innovation in Bitcoin products and services. That's right. Now let's discuss the indirect Bitcoin exposure, which continues to grow. As institutional and retail Bitcoin adoption continues to surge, corporations are seeking new ways to gain exposure to the white hot crypto industry. That's right, the corporate FOMO is kicking in and just getting started. While some companies such as MicroStrategy, Tesla, and Square have opted to hold cryptos on their balance sheets in lieu of cash, others have looked to take advantage of the growing demand for investment solutions. New crypto-based financial products are undoubtedly on the rise. For instance, the first several crypto-based exchange-traded funds became available on the Toronto Stock Exchange mere months ago. If the crypto sector continues growing at the current pace, it's likely that significantly more capital will flood into the sector.
Okay, so I just want to break in here because this is something I do know for a fact. Okay, so because again, there's a lot of hype, right, going on, and I just want to say, like they're saying collectively, like Morgan Stanley, Soros, yada yada, all these guys collectively have put in $200 million. That's not a lot of money. Like I'm saying, like it's a lot of money, for a regular person if you had $200 million in your bank account. But I'm talking about like Morgan Stanley, Soros, his fund company, that hedge fund that he runs and so on and so forth. That's pocket change. So that's, I don't really think that's that huge of a driver, especially when you're considering that Bitcoin has a market cap of $1 trillion. That's basically like, that's like a blip on the radar. That's nothing. Now, another thing I know for a fact is he's saying, what makes it look bullish and so on and so forth is that there's all these ETFs, exchange traded funds on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Now, again, I'm in Toronto, so I know what's going on here. Those things opened up to extremely low fanfare. Like nobody really cared about them. Like the exchange thought that these things were going to be overbought. They thought that people were going to be lining up to get them, so on and so forth. And they really did not do anything. Nobody cared but the thing is though, it's kind of defeats the purpose. And what I think too, this is what I think is going to be the biggest threat to Bitcoin. It's going to be the derivatives of Bitcoin. Okay. And what I mean by that is, you watch, mark my words, there's going to be companies and they'll use derivatives to do it. And I remember they did this back in the day, like in Canada, back in, I think it was the late 90s, I think it was late 90s. They had things called clone funds. Okay. And what that was there was a rule like inside your RSP. So an RSP is like a 401k in the States. That's your retirement fund. And, it grows tax free. And so there's all these stipulations of what you can put in it, what you can't put in it. And you could only put in, domestic investments. Like you could only put in Canadian stocks. You could only, they've changed it since, right? But at the time, you could only put in like certain things. And they, everybody wanted, all these foreign stocks. And so somebody started clone funds. And what clone funds were they would buy options on the Montreal derivative exchange, like on their options exchange in Montreal for the U.S. market, the Japanese market, so on and so forth. So yes, the security itself was in Canada because it was an options contract, but it was based on the performance of foreign equities, right? And that's how they got around it. But anyway, as soon as they passed the law that you could put anything in the RSP, all those clone funds just disappeared overnight. Like there was no more clone funds. They didn't. I remember when that happened. It was like, and they said whole industries, like whole like divisions of banks were closed the very next day. You didn't need them anymore. So, but what I'm going to see with Bitcoin, this is what I say with Bitcoin is that, okay, this whole ETF thing, because, and I find it no surprise that this is happening in Canada because Canada is extremely conservative. They will not let you put money into Bitcoin, certainly not from the bank, and you certainly can't put it in your RSP. And they know for a fact that Canadians, most Canadians don't have any money. And I think they said that 78% of Canadians don't even have $1,000 in their bank. Almost 80% of the people in Canada don't even have $1,000. So they know for a fact that anybody who does invest,
and there's also
they have to put it inside their RSP. So they're trying to go after this RSP money. So that's why they created these ETFs, because they know they can't they can't get your money through Bitcoin. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to create these ETFs, which are Canadian securities, so you can put the money in your RSP, because the only little bit of money Canadians do have to save is usually in the RSP, because you get a tax write-off. It's very similar to a 401k, right? But these did not open up to the fanfare that they thought they were going to get. They thought people were going to be buying this left, right, and center, and yada, 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 yada. Didn't happen. But I do think with the problem of these ETFs, it's going to actually take away from the purchase of Bitcoin. Because most people, you have to realize, like if you're listening to this channel, chances are you have somewhat more sophisticated knowledge than the average person. Like people still don't even know what Bitcoin is. I tell people about it and they look at me like they have no idea what I'm talking about. And they have no idea that the whole world of finance is changing right before their eyes, and they have no clue what's going on. Like no clue, not one bit. And but like I said, what I think what the problem is going to be with this is is that they're going to have derivatives, much like those clone funds. Like they're going to have something based on a futures contract on the price of Bitcoin, and people will be thinking they're buying Bitcoin, but what they're going to be doing is they're going to be buying a derivative of it, and that's actually going to take away from the Bitcoin price because people won't be actually buying Bitcoin. Like there's a lot of people who are like gold investors, and their philosophy is like, don't buy the stock. Don't buy, gold that's being held somewhere else. Like they say, if you can't hold it in your hand, you don't own it. There's a lot of guys who are into like precious metals that say that. That's their philosophy. If you can't hold it in your hand, you don't own it. And it's the same thing with this Bitcoin. The whole point of Bitcoin, see, this is kind of what they're doing right now on Wall Street and Bay Street is kind of the antithesis of what Bitcoin's all about. Like they're trying to make, financial sector run Bitcoin. And that's the antithesis of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is you're supposed to be your own bank. You're not supposed to be going to the Toronto Stock Exchange to buy Bitcoin ETFs. They're trying to get rid of these guys. But these guys, like the people who run this stuff, is trying to get a piece of Bitcoin. And I think this thing that he's talking about right now, the Toronto Stock Exchange making these ETFs, I know for a fact, I'm not going to say it was an out-and-out failure, but it certainly did not live up to the hype that they thought it was going to, because they thought that thing was going to take off like crazy, and it really, not too many people bought it, man. So it's either people are, it's hard to decipher why it didn't take off. Is it because people are becoming more sophisticated and they know that thing is not, indicative of actually owning Bitcoin, and its price move isn't going to be a direct correlation of Bitcoin? Or is it that the people who that's geared for are still afraid of Bitcoin and they just don't want any part of it? I don't know. I can't tell you. I have no idea. But I'll tell you right now, that I know for a fact did not do as well as they thought that it was going to do. And they were really pumping it up. Oh, Canada's coming around. I'm telling you right now, Canada is not coming around to Bitcoin, because just go to any major bank, go to RBC, go to Bank of Montreal, go to Scotiabank, TD, CIBC, go to any of them. Open up a bank account, sign up your bank account to Coinbase and try to buy crypto with it. They will block it. You are not allowed to buy it from a Canadian bank. So then they're turning around and say, oh yeah, Canada's opening it up with open arms, about Bitcoin. No, they're not. And I know that 100% for a fact that they're not. Because like I said, my account's blocked. I can't buy Bitcoin with my bank account. They blocked it. I phoned them and they said, oh, yeah, it's against the law. You're not allowed. But apparently they're, in love with it with these ETFs. But again, what this is to me, with this whole ETF on the TSX, it's a last-ditch effort of, legacy financial, archaic, the old guard trying to get a piece of this new thing. They're scratching their heads. They're figuring out, okay, how do we get a piece of Bitcoin and still stay in business? Right? That's what that is. And I really don't think it's working, But anyways, that's it for today. Like if I was going to do anything though, like just end with this, they should have just started like a mutual fund or something where they manage it. Right. But they're not doing that. They got this ETF, and I just don't think that's going to work. But anyway, so that's it for today. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.